What does it mean they settle? Do they get royalties from those individuals?
No, they can't, because as a franchise, when you buy a franchise, you get exclusive, you and the other franchisees get exclusive rights to those patents. So they can't sell royalties or they can't
Equipment to non-franchisees.
to non-franchisees.
So what does it mean that they settled? That they just agreed to allow them to manufacture their glides?
They agreed to make modifications to their equipment. In the case of Ken, in the case of Dry Ease, and well, not Dry Ease, or yes, Dry Ease, not U.S. products. They agreed to flatten the bottom of their glides.
Oh.
What does Dry Ease have? Is it that flat extractor or something like that?
Yeah, they had the Rover.
Okay.
The Rover, which was actually a tool that the glide that was on the Rover we manufactured for Dry Ease, exclusively for Dry Ease.
Yeah.
And so they agreed with them to mill off a flat spot on the bottom, and HRI backed off on
That's
that.
kind of
Like
strange
ours-
that they would allow just like to, it's not getting rid of the holes. It's just like.
That's
Is that
like
so
the glide
they-
after you've used it for a month.
Is that so they'll
Exactly.
save face with their franchisees?
Yeah.
More so? Because that's not getting rid of the holes at all.
Well, that's kind of conjecture, because I can't know their mind and, what they were thinking. I would say, yes, they knew that Dry Ease and U.S. products have a considerable amount of money, and they didn't want to get into a pissing match, I don't think, with them in the courts that long.
No.
And it was with the change in ownership with U.S. products. U.S. products was now in line with HydroMaster, who is their largest supplier of equipment.
Yeah.
That's where ChemDry gets their equipment. They settled the day after they announced the merger of U.S. products and HydroMaster. They settled that the next day. They settled that case. So we know that's why that one was settled. We know that the Evolution wand is available to the cleaners in a slot version, but to ChemDry in a whole version. And now those franchisees, they now have, it's part of the franchise equipment, that was all very convenient for all of them. Dry Ease, it's my belief, again, I can't talk, and I have inside information, but, Dry Ease might not appreciate me talking about it, but they had financial reasons for settling when they settled. And mainly, none of the big companies they don't want to get into some multi-million-dollar lawsuit if they don't have to. And if they're not making a ton of money off of those pieces of equipment,
No.
they aren't going to make that as a financial decision. Mighty did not make it as a financial decision, and neither did Green Glides. We did it because we felt that the industry was being bullied, and we wouldn't stand for that.
But if you had flattened the bottom of yours, you would have been okay?
No, they wouldn't talk to us
But
about
it's
it.
precedence now, they have to.
Because they wouldn't talk to us about it because we're post-judgment. So they don't have to.
Right.
The judge did recommend very strongly that they talk to us about settling, but so far there hasn't been productive talk. I've asked to have a meeting with Dale Jensen personally, and without the attorneys present, because I think mano a mano we get a lot more accomplished.
Did you see him at Connections?
I did. I saw him.
But
just
no.
no
Okay.
talk. Hello.
Yeah.
See ya in a couple days. Kind of.
Okay, so if this plays out, like, not great for you and you end up being incarcerated, how do you see that playing out?
Well, civil contempt, as opposed to criminal contempt, civil contempt, the contemnor is said to have the keys to their own cell. In other words, when you decide to comply or to do what they ask, then they let you out. It's coercive as opposed to punitive. Criminal is punitive. If you went into court and you told a judge to F off in the courtroom, they would slap you with criminal contempt and give you whatever, 30 days as punishment or a fine as punishment. And that's criminal contempt. It's punitive. It's punishment. But with civil contempt, it's made to coerce behavior. How it's most famous is when a reporter refuses to reveal a source, and they will incarcerate them until they decide to reveal a source. And that has resulted in some high-profile cases with reporters remaining in jail for many years. There is a point.
What if your list gets destroyed?
Now that stuff I can't talk about. Okay.
I mean, you know, computers get erased and they hard drive crashes, all that kind of stuff happens.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But I'm not going to talk about that.
I lost a whole bunch of data not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that
There was a
kind of
fire
stuff
and that
happens.
was it.
Yep,
You know,
that
the
kind of
water
stuff.
from the fire department got into that power supply and it fried my hard drives.
I made some parts one time that were patented, and I didn't know it. We got sued, and that night the parts got melted before I had to turn them over.
Yeah, stuff like that happens.
I mean,
It's
they were
true.
sitting right next to the smelter, and they got melted.
But-
Amazing.
But yeah, there is, with civil contempt also, though, they can only go so long. And it, instead of being coercive, becomes punitive. Because if you're not going to comply, or you don't, you know, if a reporter doesn't reveal their source after a certain amount of time, it's obvious that that person isn't going to do it. And then it becomes punitive, then it becomes criminal contempt. Civil contempt can become criminal contempt, at which point they have to put a sentence, they have to put a limit on it, and they also have to, because it now crosses the line into criminal, they also have to appoint an attorney for you if you can't afford one yourself. And it's also appealable, whereas civil contempt is not appealable. You don't have a right to an attorney, even though you lose your freedom.
So Lisa, do you feel like if you were incarcerated over this, do you think there was social media that this could end up being a terrible black eye that could really damage the accuser?
Yeah.
Like in such a way it would be worse for them?
Yeah, no,
I
definitely.
seem to agree, understanding social media too.
I do too.
Yeah.
It could just rip them right apart.
That is, when you're stuck in a position like ours, there is very few avenues to fight a huge corporation, and that is the most effective means of fighting them is in the public perception and the public eye.
Public opinion, and
Yeah.
you can really get that using social media.